And I quote, instead of accepting the loss like the unbothered rap artist he often claims to be, comma, he has sued his own record label in a misguided attempt to salve his wounds, period, end quote. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting into another installment of the UMG versus Drake Ultimate War going on currently. I don't know if y'all have watched Invincible, but as far as the Invincible War, the UMG war is a lot more satisfying for a lot of music industry connoisseurs because Drake has indefinitely put his prime as far as on the charts in jeopardy. Because if you don't know, UMG currently has 54% of the entire music market share, right? Universal has 54%, Sony has 30%, Warner has 10%, and the others, as far as smaller labels and independents, they have collectively 7%. So Drake has been a part of UMG for quite some time now, since 2009 to be exact. So for him to now in 2025 go at UMG via a lawsuit post rap battle, and that's very important, especially with the defamation lawsuit citing the track that ultimately lost you the rap battle. It's a gray area that is going on for quite some time because both sides won't admit their own faults. Drake's side won't admit entering into the battle amidst negotiation with UMG, and UMG, they won't admit certain practices, and let me just say allegedly, that they did to give size 7, white tank top, I always forget his name, my fault, Kendrick. They give Kendrick the upper hand in the battle. So with that being said, we're going to get into a lot when it comes to Drake versus UMG because we have a new lawsuit. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, after 100 million pages of lawsuits, there's still more to get into and then dive into because just recently, UMG has released their lawsuit responding to Drake, basically letting him know that, hey, Drake engaged in this publicized rap feud. We didn't force him. That's essentially what the lawsuit is about. Analytic Dreamz video on Spotify to see the video along with the audio because, of course, I have the entire 32-page document up on the screen because if you don't know, if you haven't followed the podcast, right, I've covered this battle, this war, I might add, extensively to the point where the first petition that was dropped on Drake's side was the Spotify side, right? Back in January 15th, which you can look up on the Notorious Mass Effect podcast, whatever podcast platform you listen on, I talked about how Drake dropped his first legal petition, but is still suing UMG, right? So a lot of people are saying, oh, look, he dropped the lawsuit, UMG won. But of course, people are just not reading the full lawsuit. They're just ultimately coming up with their own conclusions based off headlines, right? That's why I like to get into the whole lawsuit. So at the end of the day, you can say what you want about my opinions, but I do try to showcase the full scale of what's going on and let you decide what is ultimately the right side as far as Drake and UMG. So anyways, Drake dropped a petition for Spotify, but he's still suing UMG. And then fast forward to March 5th, 2025. And of course, Drake dropped his petition towards iHeart, but of course is still suing UMG over the defamation lawsuit as far as Not Like Us. Now, with that being said, there's a lot of things that we have to get into as far as the petitions being dropped and as far as the lawsuit versus UMG, because we have to cover the entire spectrum. So I'm going to get into the overview of Drake versus UMG. I'm going to get into the internet reactions because they were hilarious. I ain't gonna lie to you. Some people on UMG side, some people on Drake's side, and I'm just here loving every bit of it because, of course, we're almost at 10 million downloads. So at some point, we're gonna hit that mark, and I think these type of beefs is let's just say getting us to that milestone expeditiously. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, Drake and UMG. The first thing I want you to know is that, of course, the rap battle is the main cause for this defamation lawsuit. Another part of this lawsuit that's entirely just dismissed by the other side is the bots allegations, right? Because Drake basically said that he would have had more of a fair shot if UMG didn't engage in certain practices to uplift Kendrick's song to the masses, right? It's seeming as if Drake is saying that you suppressed my Family Matters track to promote a Not Like Us track, which is calling me a pedophile, right? So that's the main 2 points of the lawsuit: defamation and accusing Kendrick's team of using bots. So basically, to get more in depth into it, he basically claimed that Universal Music Group promoted Not Like Us to damage his reputation. Allegations of UMG secretly paying third parties is still amongst the lawsuit. So even though he dropped the petition going at iHeart, he's still including them in certain tidbits of this lawsuit, which means if he ends up winning, iHeart is still going to have some ramifications, especially since they are one of the third parties that Drake is alleging that UMG secretly paid off, right? And of course, he also is talking about Not Like Us as far as the music video, as far as the cover art being malicious, right? And associating him with sex offenders. That's another part of the lawsuit. Right now, we're getting to the overview for people who don't have the longest attention spans. Let me just put it like that. I won't call y'all TikTok brains, right? I'm just going to say you may not have the longest attention span. So right now, we're getting into the overview. I'm going to get into the internet reactions, and then we're going to get into the entire lawsuit because I read the whole thing, took notes, and I'm going to go through the whole lawsuit page by page, and we're going to break it down. So get your favorite snack, whether it's popcorn, but your favorite drink, and we're going to get into it. So with that being said, UMG's response in totality was basically calling Drake's lawsuit misguided, saying it was a reaction to losing a rap battle, and argued that the diss track was a form of artistic expression using hyperbole and exaggeration. And then, of course, they quoted Drake himself because I guess UMG was trying to get in their lyrical bag, right? So they quoted Drake's own diss tracks where he used similar inflammatory language, which we're going to get into more. We're going to get into the details of it later. So anyways, and they ultimately pointed at the First Amendment protections for hyperbolic insults in hip hop. And of course, they referred to past legal precedents where courts dismissed defamation claims and cases involving artistic expression. So with that being said, now that you have UMG's side, now that you have Drake's side, you just have to know that this is an ongoing court battle. So this is far from over. This is actually a huge deal in the music industry if Drake wins. Now, I've talked about this in the past because, of course, this has happened before. Let me get the exact date. But as far as UMG being caught for payola. Let me see. So as far as UMG being caught for payola, this has happened before. And I know that may make the UMG defenders upset, but back in 2006, UMG, who was still regarded as the world's largest music company, settled with the New York Attorney General's office for $12 million. Back in 2006, mind you. $12 million following accusations that its executives engaged in illegal pay-to-play tactics. So you're telling me a music label that were already found, not even found guilty, because when you settle, that's the way to get around being found guilty, right? When you settle for $12 million because you was accused of engaging in illegal pay-for-play tactics, I wonder what Drake's ultimate goal is as far as this battle between UMG. So anyways, it's very interesting how they've been found guilty for pay-for-play tactics in the past, but people are acting like this is just blasphemous on Drake's part to even accuse this music label of such things, right? They're acting like this has never been the case, and UMG's just been going at it the straight and narrow way, and they just been putting in the hard work, and they haven't been found, well, you can't say found guilty, but UMG settled for pay-to-play tactics in the past, more specifically 2006. And it was announced on May 11th, 2006, to be even more specific, because the then Attorney General Elliot Spitzer basically talked about it, and that was one of the biggest investigations in the music industry, and that was conducted by Elliot Spitzer. So when you settle, you don't have to admit guilt, but hey, when the details come out that you paid $12 million, it's almost like you pay for the problem to go away. You know what I mean? It's a very straight cut objective for Drake if you're looking at it from actually reading the lawsuits. If you read the lawsuits and look at what Drake is actually trying to acquire, it's probably just some type of monetary compensation for ultimately damaging his career, and he's going about it in a way that he has a great case because he has some history to back him up as far as UMG engaging in these tactics. So anyways, with that being said, now we're going to get into the latest involvements of the internet, because you already know when it comes to the internet, they look at headlines and they don't read the entire lawsuit at all. So they basically had jokes for days. Somebody said that UMG was like, remember when you was doing countdowns for 3 weeks? Remember when you was saying, tell that little boy to drop? Remember? And guess what? Analytic Dreamz video on Spotify to see this, because this is the picture they put up. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't make this stuff up. The internet is undefeated. Because how in the world do you get a picture of Joseph Anthony Budden in this very moment? Like, how in the world do you pause the screen to even get this picture? And that's the picture she used to mock Drake. She was basically saying, to reiterate, right? To go along with this picture, to make it even more obvious to, you know, the mockery that's happening right now on the internet towards Drake. She basically said, UMG, remember when you was doing countdowns for 3 weeks? Remember when you was saying, tell that little boy to drop? Remember? She was trying to get him to remember. Anyways, somebody else said, my favorite part of the motion was when they say Drake bringing up Millie Bobby Brown on Heart Part 6, which I might add, that would have been my main argument if I was UMG. But obviously it's in their response lawsuit, but I would have came out at the beginning like, hold up, does the Heart Part 6 not exist? Didn't you say that you heard it on the Budden podcast? It must have been true. Goes along with this picture. But anyways, let's keep going. So when Kendrick never mentioned her, proved he knew people thought he was a pedophile way before Not Like Us. Drake did set the groundwork for Kendrick to take off. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like, as far as a construction career in Drake's future, the way he laid the groundwork for Kendrick to just ultimately call him a PDF with no ramifications. I mean, at the end of the day, y'all really gotta look at this, right? In totality, Drake called Kendrick a woman beater. Said his kids, well, no, one of his kids, it's not his, and not only is it not his, it's his manager's, Day Free, right? This is all alleged. I'm just saying what these two gentlemen said towards each other, right? Kendrick, he told Drake, hey, you're a pedophile. You like having provocative actions with little kids, which is insane. And then, before that, before he even got to the PDF allegations, right? This man embodied the, rest in peace to Stanley. He embodied one of the most creative humans ever to walk planet Earth, and said, I'm going to make up a whole fictional character and say, you have a daughter. Yeah, so Meet the Grams. It's a whole verse where he says and claims that Drake has a daughter. Why do people not bring that up? Because, of course, who cares about the facts when the lie is more entertaining? Drake, well, I can't say that, but Kendrick said Drake has a daughter and he likes little kids. Like, make that make sense in 2025, right? So, obviously, these two gentlemen have been going to the depths of hell to throw insults at one another. So when we get into lawsuit time, it's very interesting, and it's very provocative from the standpoint of, man, what would drive somebody so mad to where they put together an entire defamation lawsuit that not only would affect UMG and Kendrick, but will also affect the whole music industry if he ends up winning, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't think UMG would ever let it get to a point where he would ultimately win. Like, I don't think UMG would ever go through the full process where they know they're losing and end up being found guilty. I think if they know they're losing, they're going to approach Drake, probably give him the record deal that he been wanting, right? And call it a day and just call it a settlement, just like they did back in 2006 with the New York Attorney General's office when they settled for $12 million for pay-to-play tactics, right? UMG is not ignorant to the situation of pay to play. So anyways, these two gentlemen have no ground to stand on when it comes to the moral police, because where's the actual police if this is true, right? I mean, R. Kelly in prison, Epstein, y'all know what they did to Epstein, but hey, anyways, R. Kelly's in prison, right? If these accusations are if there's even an inclination of truth, ladies and gentlemen, we need to get the legal authorities involved. Anyways, let's keep going. So that was the internet reaction. Of course, they were just making jokes out of all this, not reading the lawsuit at all. But I think it's very entertaining because that just ultimately adds on to what I do at the Notorious Mass Effect. Because once I get into this lawsuit, a lot of people with short attention spans won't be able to, pay attention. Like, it's just that plain and simple. Like, I'm gonna get into the lawsuit in depth, page by page. Obviously, it won't take too long because I already wrote notes and things of that nature. But this whole lawsuit has a lot of great details. And then also, just in case I have to pull it up, I do have the other lawsuit. So Oh, actually, I almost forgot about that. Also, before we get into this lawsuit, I did have a professor, right? There was a professor that reached out from where you're at university, right? He like emailed me and stuff. He sent me like a clip, right? And obviously I'm joking, but of course at the end of the day, I had to implement this video before I got into this lawsuit because it ultimately showcases what turmoil Drake has been put through as far as the vitriol lyrically from Side 7. I mean, Kendrick Lamar, right? So anyways, I got the lawyer from where you're at university, and he's basically, no, not lawyer. I got a professor from where you're at university, and he's one of the greatest professors you like known to man. And he put together this short video to let y'all know what is going on in the Drake and UMG situation. So let me just play this right here. So this is, he sent me a little video, right? Some of y'all may recognize this meme, but for those who's only listening, just listen to this audio treat as far as the Drake versus UMG is considered.
See, the more you fuck around, the more you're gonna find out. And also, if you stay down here, and you'll never find out. I hope this lesson is helpful.
Wow. You know what? I never really looked at it like that. You know, if you look at it from the standpoint that he has an entire graph to showcase what he's talking about, you know, if you go to the point where he circles the sevens and the sevens, like he's saying, like every time you, and this is a PG podcast, so I'm just going to use the PG version. Every time you mess around, right, you're going to find out. And the levels of you messing around could indeed increase the levels of you finding out. Wow. That's crazy. I ain't gonna lie to you. I just now realized that. Like, this chart made me understand what he's talking about as far as this Drake versus UMG battle. Like, Drake was telling that boy to drop, rapping as Tupac himself, you know, like digital blackface. You know what I mean? You know, he is, anyways, with that being said, digital blackface, rapping as Snoop Dogg, basically telling Kendrick to drop, giving him ammo to use when he drops, and then he actually used it. And so this graph just puts it all in perspective.
See, as you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're gonna find out.
Wow.
And also, if you stay down here and you never fuck around, you'll never find out.
So I think what he's saying is, if Drake would have just chilled out, right? If the Like That verse came out and Drake was like, you know what? I'm not even going to give that any attention because all he said was, I got a K with all these nines. He going to see Pet Cemetery, right? If he would have just let that alone and let that be and basically tell his fans, he'd be like, you know what? Once I get this new deal, then I'm going at Size 7. I mean, white tank top. I mean, Kendrick Lamar. But no, this man did not want to stay at ground zero, which is what this man is talking about. Basically, Drake didn't want to stay at zero. So the more he kept messing around, and you see the evolution on the charts. Hold up, let me make sure y'all can see this right quick. And you see the evolution of the finding out. I mean, push-ups, tailor-made freestyle, okay. And then you have Meet the Grams, which that's not at all how the discography went. So I'm just gonna do it because I know the discography. So he put out, when it really started, right? He put out Family Matters. That was the greatest rap track of the entire beef. I still will say that to this day. Kendrick followed that up expeditiously, dropping Meet the Grams. And then not only did he drop Meet the Grams, making up an imaginary daughter, right? Then he dropped Not Like Us. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I done cracked Da Vinci's Code. Who would have thunk that if you mess around enough, you will find out?
But then, you know what I'm saying? I was like, damn, look at the state of hip hop. Like, what's going on?
So anyways, let's get into the full lawsuit because, of course, at the end of the day, I want to appreciate that professor from coming out of where you're at university to give us that great lecture. And hopefully y'all took notes and do your homework as far as why he says if you mess around enough, you'll find out. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get into a particular part of this segment where people who actually want to know the objective facts will probably not be as entertained because we're going to just get into the entire lawsuit and I'm going to break this down like a kilo of Miley Cyrus, right? All right, so page one, right? Page one is essentially talking about the overview of this case, right? You got Aubrey Graham right here, Drake Graham, which is a crazy name because you know how many rap bars have been made using this Govey? Like, what did Drake say? People getting rich off my Govey? Like, people really did get rich off his Govey. And then, you know, Graham, Drake, Aubrey. I mean, there's just so many ways to flip that as a rapper. Pause. So anyways, UMG is right here. All right. So that's page one. All right. We got page one down. Only 31 more to go. So anyways, page two. right? What do we have here? Table of contents, ladies and gentlemen. This is basically just talking about how they're going to break down this entire situation like a kilo of Tate McRae. All right. And then we have, well, actually, let's just go through the little pages right here, right? So essentially, you have page 1, introduction, right? Statement of facts. Page 2, Drake and Lamar engaged in a vitriolic. Ooh, okay. I thought that was Viltrumite for a second. I was like, hold up, is that Omni-Man? Vitriolic. Okay. You know, I use vitriol all the time. I don't know why vitriolic is throwing me off. Not Like Us is a massive commercial and artistic success. That's page 8. Argument, page 9, right? Legal standard, page 9, okay? Drake fails to state a claim for defamation, page 10. The alleged defamatory material is non-actionable opinion and rhetorical and hyperbole, page 11. Drake cannot allege that UMG acted with actual malice. That's page 17. Drake fails to state a claim. State your source. No, just playing. State a claim for harassment in the second degree. All right, that's page 19. Drake fails to state a claim under New York GLB. That is definitely lawyer talk. I don't know what in the world that's talking about. That's page 22. And we have the conclusion, page 25. So ladies and gentlemen, as you already know, when it comes to this, it's going to be very interesting because I really broke this down and took notes, so we won't have to read every single sentiment that's on these pages, but we will go page by page just in case you want to read it for yourself. Analytic Dreamz video on Spotify to see the video along with the audio. Hopefully it's close enough to where y'all can see. I think y'all can see that. Hold on, let me see. I'm trying to get to where it has the whole. Okay, yeah. I think that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Y'all should be able to read that. And if you can't, just zoom in, but I think I zoomed in enough to where y'all can read this. I just want the whole page up. All right, so anyways, page 7. So this is essentially page 7, and UMG starts off by saying that essentially Drake's complaint lacks merit, right? I'm not reading this line for line because then we'll be here for hours, and who has that type of time, right? UMG argues that Drake's complaint lacks merit, right? It stems from a public rap feud with Kendrick Lamar. There's a lot of hyperbolic insults, artistic expression, not actionable defamation or harassment. Of course, they said that this feud context is basically escalating lyrics in media, right? So they undermine Drake's claims, essentially, and that's the premise of page 7, right? And then we get to page 8, and page 8 details the feud's history, noting that Lamar's insults via tracks like Not Like Us, which Drake alleges defamed him. UMG contends that these are non-actionable opinions or rhetorical hyperbole, citing the rap battle's commercial success and cultural impact, and also mentions UMG's global status in case you got it messed up, in case you really wanted to find out. UMG is the biggest player in this music industry. I already read off the percentages at the beginning of the segment for a reason. But if you want me to tell you again, UMG currently has 54% of the entire 100% music market share. Ladies and gentlemen, they are not to be messed with. So anyways, let's keep going. So that's basically page 8. They talked about the global status, things of that nature. Okay, page 9. Like I said, I wrote notes. I'm be able to point out when it actually gets juicy because it's basically just the history of Not Like Us, which if you follow Notorious Mass Effect, you definitely already know the history by now. So anyways, page 9 out of 32. Crazy, right? Describes the rap feud's escalation between Drake and Kendrick. So now they're just letting the court know the history, right? Talking about push-ups, talking about like that, talking about alleged Kendrick alleging certain things and Drake's life going on and things of that nature. And they claim that Drake filing this lawsuit claiming defamation and harassment by UMG for promoting Kendrick Lamar's tracks is artistic expression, right? That's how they respond to it. And basically talk about how the feud's commercial success, Lamar's Grammy wins, and cultural impact, framing the lyrics as artistic expression. So basically, the main argument, if I was to get on my lawyer tip, pause, is they're using rhetorical hyperbole, not factual assertions, citing rap's competition nature. And they has stuff like Tupac versus Biggie, right? This being compared in the court of law to Tupac and Biggie should showcase how big this time period would be in the foreseeable future for hip hop. Because we still, to this day, we're trying to find out what happened to Tupac, right? I mean, Keefe D is in prison crying, literally. He's in prison crying for his freedom. because he feels like he's been falsely imprisoned because of his interview on Vlad talking about him being involved. Let me just put it like that. Being involved with Tupac's murder, right? And he didn't say it like that, like I'm the one who shot him. But hey, put two and two together. Vlad did a phenomenal detective work on Keefe D, which is why he's in prison to this day. All right, so let's keep going. So Page, they're laying out the groundwork, right? It's really nothing that we have to dive into, because if you follow the podcast, you already know all this history between these two musicians, right? So let's get into page 11 and 12. So essentially, they start to get more into the lyrics. They get more into Kendrick Lamar's Euphoria track, right? And they said that Drake alleges defames him by questioning his authenticity and parenting. So not only has Drake cited Not Like Us, not only has Drake cited Euphoria, not only has Drake basically hopped into the battle, emphasizing UMG emphasizing how, and you can see right here, I'm gonna highlight it. In the voice of Snoop Dogg, Drake then calls Kendrick Lamar to release the track. This is hilarious. Who put this together? In the voice of Snoop Dogg, Drake then calls on Lamar to release a new diss track. But still, now I gotta do it. You gotta show this owl who's boss on the West. Now's the time to really make a power move. Cause right now it's looking like you writing out the game plan how to lose. Cause right now it's looking like you writing out the game plan on how to lose. I am slow. My fault. How to bark up the wrong tree and then get your head popped in a crowded room. World is watching this chess game. Get full screen for this. World is watching this chess games, but are you out of moves? That's crazy. I mean, Snoop Dogg was spitting. That man said, world is watching this chess game, but are you out of moves? Only if Drake knew. Size 7, white tank top, my fault. I got his name mixed up. Kendrick Lamar was indeed not out of moves. So anyways, this is hilarious that UMG is citing this in his lawsuit, basically showcasing how Drake's defamation lawsuit is laughable, right? And this is their words, right? This is basically what they're getting into. Breaking down the whole track from Snoop Dogg and Tupac, and Drake basically using AI to replicate the voice and anything like that. But then again, to Lamar responding, right, with Euphoria and things of that nature. And the reason why they're emphasizing these lyrics is for rhetorical nature, citing rap's history of hyperbolic diss tracks. And then they also cited the pop culture, the Pop Culture Happy Hour podcast. Hold up, a podcast getting promotion in a lawsuit? Nah, man, say it ain't so. How do I find that? Stop playing with me. Ain't no way a podcast got promotion without. Hold up now. They plugged the podcast in a lawsuit and then they say Notorious Mass Effect. Hold up, I'm about to hate the Pop Culture Happy. I don't see that at all. Is this lying to me? As described in the Pop Culture Happy Hour podcast transcript cited by Drake. Ain't no way. Hold up. Now I gotta look them up. I'm about to send this to myself. I gotta watch them now because they are now indeed ingrained into culture. Shout out to the Pop Culture Happy Hour podcast. I've never listened, but obviously that's not hate. I'm just letting you know. I will be listening in the future, and this is actually a milestone for this podcast. To get this type of promotion. Oh, this is owned by NPR. What type of industry plant stuff is this? Oh, no. All right, let me show this to myself. I do want to listen to what they have to say. Because if my podcast was named in an entire lawsuit, best believe the next 2 weeks would be me breaking this down. All right. Let me see. Drake, lawsuit, podcast. This is how I take notes. Hopefully, I know. All right, anyways, let's get back to this. That's actually insane. A whole podcast got a shout out in this lawsuit. That's a W if I might add. That's almost as big as Drake. Academics getting named by both rappers in the battle. Anyways, isn't it crazy how after Academics got named by both rappers in the battle, he proceeded to follow with one of the worst years? And anyways, with that being said, let's get into the lawsuit, right? Was this page 9? That was page 9. So that was the only time they got cited for that. That's interesting. Okay. So we have page 11, right? They're basically making fun of Drake, putting out a defamation lawsuit because of this stuff with Snoop Dogg and Tupac and things that nature. And they argue that Drake's claims of defamation and harassment lack merit under legal standards. Man, they are really going at the Canadian. They say UMG will likely argue. No. Okay. So this is just my notes. So basically, UMG will likely argue the lyrics are as protective speech, not actionable defamation, and that NYGBL, whatever that is, that lawyer language, that lawyer lingo, right? Leveraging First Amendment and anti-slap. Chris Rock? No, my fault. Anti-slap defenses to dismiss the case. All right, cool. So now we're about to get into page 13 and 14. I ain't gonna lie,